Patreon.com/the Walk-Off Podcast. $4 a month gets you in there.
Okay, so this is fun because I did want to do a little bit of projecting into the future and talk about some guys within this Blue Jays organization that could truly wind up contributing to the team in 2024. So these are names that maybe aren't at the forefront right now, but we could be showing a lot of love to this time next year, right, as we're watching spring training. Before we get into these names, I do want to really quickly touch on Otto Lopez because I know last episode when we were talking about guys on the bubble, right? Bubble spots. We brought up Addison Barger and Wynyard Bernard and, a few of these other guys. And one we missed, he was on my list to bring up, but we didn't wind up talking Otto Lopez, which is kind of funny because Otto Lopez probably the most likely to make this team in that bubble 26-man spot out of spring training. He was on the roster in September. He fills needs other guys don't do because he can play all over the diamond and he plays shortstop. I mean, Addison Barger does as well, but there aren't a lot of guys who can fill in for Bo. There's Santiago Espinal, and that's it. So it would be advantageous to have a dude like Otto Lopez who can plug into that shortstop position. Otto Lopez also very quick, right? He grades high on the speed scale, and he is a good base runner, all things that the Blue Jays are looking to do and use from that utility spot. So a little bit of love for Otto Lopez, who we kind of forgot last episode, but he's definitely a guy.
Otto Lopez, by the way, 8 games with the Blue Jays last year, 9 at-bats, 6 hits. Small sample size.
Small sample size, but his contact rate is good. He is a guy who puts the bat on the ball, something that not everyone on this roster does.
Okay, so this is what I do want to say. In AAA with Buffalo, hit 297. Played 91 games, 297. Great sample size, great numbers there.
Yeah.
Again, small sample size, very impressive. What it shows me is that he wasn't
intimidated.
It wasn't too big. The moment wasn't too big for him.
Yeah.
I don't have the context of when those play appearances came, so maybe they were in 18-0 blowouts in Fenway for all I know. But it's encouraging, I would say. And yeah, it's the 24-year-old could contribute this year.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. He's currently playing on Team Canada with the WBC. So very cool. All the best to him. Now let's get into 2024 and names that we could see contributing to this team at that time. I want to start with friend of the show. Okay. Catcher and outfielder, Zach Britton. Now, I bet you if you're watching spring training games, Zach Britton is a guy you have seen getting lots of plate appearances. This front office obviously would like to see him and how he performs against big league pitching. He's actually even hitting third in the order today of today's spring training lineup. So They are seeing how he performs in the middle of the order. Listen, lefty bat, catcher.
Blue Jays love their catcher versatility.
Play the
right?
outfield. They do love their catcher versatility. So they're going to give him a real taste this spring. You're seeing him out there. He finished the season last year in AA with New Hampshire. I think he's going to get the start in Buffalo. It'll be
him and Beck.
He'll probably wind up starting in AA and getting the call up in May or June to AAA is my guess. Right now they've got Brantley and Chris Beck, Rob Brantley, who's a seasoned vet, right? And Chris Beck in the catching position. I think we could see Zach Britton get that bump up a little later in the season. If you watch his swing, man, it is so beautiful. Like, I love this man's swing. It's effortless. He hits for power. It's just quick and it's smooth from that left side of the plate. So keep an eye on Zach Britton. Again, there's no way he gets a sniff of the major leagues in 2023. I mean, if he does, I'll be happy to eat those words because it means he's lighting the world on fire. But let's take a quick look at his numbers from last year and where he projects.
So in high A, Vancouver hit 239 with the OPS 831 last year on the back of a 442 slugging percentage. Then got promoted midseason to New Hampshire, played 19 games, and very similar numbers: 234 average, 453 slug, and an 808 OPS.
Listen, if you've got a catcher whose OPS is in the 800s, that is a beautiful place to be. He's 24 years old, so he does have a little bit of experience in the minor leagues to him.
Yeah, really tore it up in the Arizona Fall League last year. Hit
He did.
404 and an OPS 1.057.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
And of course, the Arizona Fall League is mostly big leaguers. So to see a guy excel like that, I think that's why he's getting
It's an
so many
encouraging sign
at
for
bats at spring this year. Okay, let's move to pitching. Another friend of the show, and a name more people have probably heard than, let's say, Zach Britton. But Sem Robberse,
sure. Love
21 years old, international free agent out of the Netherlands. They picked him up back in 2019. He finished last year at AA with New Hampshire. Had a great season numbers wise. I'll let you just step in here with his numbers.
Looks like 17 games with Vancouver. Had a whip of 1.154 and an ERA of 3.12. And then with New Hampshire in AA last year, had a whip of 1.176 with an ERA of 3.65. What do we always say, though, when we look at these minor leaguers? Every minor leaguer we talk to, as far as pitching goes, earned runs, not a real concern.
Especially
for starters, that they are trying to teach how to pitch deeper into games, right? So it is an educational process more than it is for positional players and hitters.
Couldn't have said it better
myself. The whip
myself.
you love to see nice and low.
Especially in high Vancouver, where they're going to do stuff like every third ball you throw has to be
right
this, right? Because they're teaching these guys to pitch. So kind of throw out the ERA. But again, better that he has a good ERA over those games than a bad, and he does. His velocity, by the way, and I don't know if I even mentioned this to you yet, Adam, it's up to 96. When we first talked to Sem 2 years ago as a 19-year-old, he was topping off at 92 miles an hour. And folks within the development system feel more velocity is there. I mean, when we talked to Zach Britton in December, Sem was a guy he brought up, and he even said, man, when that kid fills out, like he is going to be unreal because he hits his spot. And whenever one of the top tools from a 21-year-old pitcher is control, you have yourself a gem, right? And he has 4 pitches. He mixes them well. Again, locates. So Sem Robberse is a dude to keep your eye on. He is the number 7 prospect in the Blue Jays rotation or in the Blue Jays organization right now. He'll probably start the year at Buffalo. If not, they'll start him in New Hampshire and then move him up pretty quick. Young kid. 21. And outside of Ricky Tiedemann, probably the closest prospect pitching wise to contributing to this big league team.
The closest starting pitcher option that we have, because we do have some prospects.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for clarifying.
That's a good distinction to make.
Yes.
So, but again, that's a real value play there, and having a guy who, I don't think the upside of Sem Robberse is Alek Manoah. But I think the ceiling is a very serviceable 3 or 4 starter in the rotation. So
I heard Arden Zwelling talking about Sem Robberse, and he brought up that he really likes his floor, right? So like you might not have that ace potential like you do with Manoah in Sem Robberse, but the fact that you've got a guy who at 21 throws 4 pitches and locates so well, you feel good that he could slot into that number 4 in the rotation spot in a year or two and everybody needs a number 4. So the floor is good on Sem Robberse,
For sure.
guy who could truly contribute in 2024. Okay. Final guy we're going to bring up. Listen, we already talked Rainer Nunez.
Mhm.
I'm not going to bring up Aurelvis Martinez because most of you have already heard of Aurelvis Martinez. The hype on him has been pretty strong over the last couple of years. So the guy I'm going to bring up is one of the reasons I feel that this guy could contribute is the fact we have a big question mark at third base going into 2024. We don't know what's going to happen with Matt Chapman. Are they going to extend him? If they do, it's going to be expensive. If not, the internal options pretty much play out as Addison Barger, Rainer Nunez, Aurelvis Martinez. These are their third basemen. And the final guy to keep an eye on is a dude who's actually going to be joining us. He was going to join us yesterday. He's playing in the World Baseball Classic right now for Team Canada. So we got to forgive him a little bit. He sent me a message on Instagram last night being like, Scott, I'm so sorry. I swear I'm not that guy that's constantly pushing guys off. And I was like, bro, like, go fucking dominate for Canada, man. Don't worry
Chase
about
your
us.
dreams. Yeah.
But he should be joining us either sometime this weekend or early next week. We'll figure it out. But Damiano Parmigiani, remember that name. And I've got it down now. Took me a while. I fumbled around with it. It's a tough one. He was originally born in Venezuela, Canadian kid, moved here when he was 4 years old to Surrey, BC, grew up in BC. He even went to Vauxhall Baseball Academy here in Alberta. So there's some Alberta roots there.
A classic journey. Vauxhall from Venezuela via Surrey. Yeah,
Exactly.
Classic immigrant tale.
Every baseball story. So he finished the season last year with Vancouver in high A on home turf, right? As a Surrey boy. Pretty cool that he got to play with the Vancouver Canadians. Outside of Aurelvis Martinez, this kid has the most power in the Blue Jays organization. He hit 24 home runs last year, something that is impressive for a kid that was in low and high A to show that kind of power. He plays third base, which is his natural position. So there is a spot for him if he can prove that he deserves it. But he's also a bit of a Swiss Army knife, which we are well aware how much this organization values positional versatility. So watch out for this kid. Canadian. You got to love to cheer for the Canadian kid within the organization. Again, he does slot in below Aurelvis Martinez. He does slot in below Addison Barger, but he is starting to make some noise and starting to get quite a bit of attention from this organization. And keep an eye out for Damiano Parmigiani.